Hi, this is Zachary Ball with Omnis Technologies. Continuing with our CTERA tutorials, today I'm going to be showing you some of the basic setups that we use for local users on the CTERA and also some of the share permissions. So in this particular case, I'm running this from server 2012 to the CTERA device. I'm going to go ahead and open the portal. Now, the two main tabs that we're going to be paying attention to are the users and shares. So the users is pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, we have the built-in admin account that we always use, but we can actually go through and actually create user accounts for individuals if we want. Really, in this case, we would use the CTERA as a file server for the client. We do have a client that has 3 employees, and the CTERA itself is the file server. And then the files are picked up by the cloud backup every night. So in this particular case, we're going to go through this. We'll just do test, and then we'll plug in a pretty generic password. I'm just going to do password 1. And the password does require at least 1 number, and I believe 8 characters. And we can also plug in a full name, email address, or you can give it a numeric ID if you choose to. Go ahead and add this user. And then actually what I want to do is actually go to the groups portion, and I want to make this particular user an administrator. So what this will do is once you make them an administrator, they can log into the portal and make changes to the CTERA itself. And then we also have this read-only administrators, which they can obviously just go in and look, but not actually make any changes into the web interface. So we're going to click on the group, next, and then we actually have to go to the search tab here and put in our username that we just created, test. Make sure it's there. Go ahead and hit next, and then finish. And then our member count is now 2. Now, under the share portion. So the CTERA does support several different features. Windows File Share, SMB, it supports SMB 2.0 and up. I don't believe it supports 1.0 just because Microsoft has dropped all support for SMB 1.0. We can actually join the CTERAs to the domain if we so choose to. We generally just leave them as a work group. That way they're their own standalone kind of thing. But we have FTP, we have Apple File Share, but we're mostly going to be paying attention to the shares portion. So the backup share is where you'll go to access to copy files from old backups. The public share is generated automatically. And this is, we usually just leave that public. I mean, we can get all crazy. We can go through and create a new share, under volume, and we can call the new network share test. I mean, it's really if you wanted to, and then you can enable Windows file sharing with all kinds of things. But really for this demonstration purpose, we're just going to go with the public. So if we look under our public drive, it shows. What we're going to do is obviously click on it. We're going to edit the share permissions for this. Go ahead and pick public. Next. And you can actually change, if you don't like the name public, you can change that to something else like HR, engineering, really whatever you want. We're going to go in here, and you can enable all of these different features for that share. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to add from this portion, configure permissions. We're going to go ahead and add our test accounts. We're going to go to the search box. And then from here, we can give read-write permissions, or we can give read-only, or we can give none. In this particular case, I'm going to go with read-write permissions. We're going to hit next and then finish. Now that user account we just created now has read-write permissions to the public drive. So what we'll do is for testing purposes, we'll go ahead and you can use the actual physical device name, or you can use the IP. I generally like to use the IP. take a second. So previously I did log in. You should have gotten a prompt box for, where you'd have to put in the test username and then password. But I did this previously. But this is the default. This is what you'll see whenever you navigate through the UNC path to the CTERA device, the backups. So the backups folder is the most recent backups from last night. Previous versions is obviously whatever you set up, whatever date range you set up. So we have September 18th to August 3rd. This particular client, we say 15 days worth of data. And then obviously we have the public drive. So it might take a second to come up here. So this particular case, we use the public drive for a backup from a Server 2003 box because agents aren't supported anymore. So what we would do is run a local backup from that box to the share, and then these backups would get picked up and sent off to the cloud. There's actually a lot of stuff in here. But I mean, really, you can create any file structure that you want in here. So but that's a basic tutorial on the CTERA and the structure of shares in users in the groups. It's users, groups, and then basic Windows file sharing. Thank you very much.